Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our fourth annual Chasing Greatness, our first in the thriving city of Mobile, and everything turned out wonderful. So thank you, Kim Garrett, and everybody else who put so much into bringing this event to life this year. So, round of applause. So always one of my favorite days of the year for a lot of reasons. Of course, we get to spend time talking about stuff that's extremely near and dear to my heart, things that I'm passionate about, but more importantly, it's about bringing people together that mean so much to me and have played such a role in shaping my life. Ones that have been there on the low days and ones who've been a big part of celebrating the good ones as well. And I'm a big relationship guy, I feel like whatever superpower I have is just that. It's the friends that I have in my life. It's the people that I consider my true family that are always there through the thick and the thin. But when I think about the messaging for these events, each year and what I want to talk about, I often go back to what's going on in my own life, where am I at? And I always try to show up authentic for everybody. I don't think there's any more powerful of a character trait in a leader than that. Authenticity, being vulnerable, being who you are. People are professional boss watchers. They will see through everything you try to pull over them. There is nothing that you will get past people in your life, whether it's your kids, your spouse, your coworkers, they all see through it. So for me, just being who I am has worked really, really well. And it's worked well because of the relationships I've been able to forge. When you show people who you are, and they love you for that, and they embrace that, that's a foundation that can never really be shook. And so I sit here today, I'm 44 years old, right in the middle of midlife. Hopefully I got my midlife crisis out of my way in my late 30s, so that box has hopefully been checked. But then you sit here at 44, with things that you've accomplished that you thought would mean the world to you, and maybe they don't mean as much. And alternatively, maybe you've had shortcomings, maybe you've had failures, maybe you've had gut punches that you would have thought you could have never overcome, that you could have never gotten off the mat, after something like that's been experienced, whether it's the loss of somebody you love, a personal failure, something that you went for that you fell epically on your face, letting down somebody you love, whatever that may be. And then on the flip side, you say, man, it didn't kill me. It wasn't the end of the world. I'm still here. But with all that, you start doing soul searching. You start spending time in reflection. And it's kind of like, so what? Now what? What am I supposed to do in this next chapter? How do I go fill the Grand Canyon size hole in me that's left because I've spent so much of my life striving, pushing, trying to achieve, trying to prove something, trying to build my own narrative, paint my own resume, whatever that may be. And for me, in my life, the things that have always fueled me, the things that have always made me a better person, is surrounding myself with people better than me. I always want to be the dumbest person in the room, the least talented, the one that has the least amount to offer. I want to surround myself with people like this, people like our speakers today, people like so many others out here who I've looked up to my whole life. People like my wife, who has a completely different personality than I do, but holds me accountable all day, every day. I need that. I don't need to be told I'm doing good. I need to be told I can do better. And that's what I want. And I say that with nothing but love and affection. And that's a lot of what we want to talk about today too, is dealing with realities. If we want to say we want something, that's great, but we got to be willing to pay the price. We got to be willing to honor the game. And so you'll see a lot of repetition, this year in some of the quotes and the slides that I used. And this is one of my favorites of all time. It's from Arms. The world breaks everyone, and afterward many are strong at the broken places. But those that it will not break, it kills. It kills the very good and the very gentle, very brave and partial. If you're none of these, you can be sure you do, but there will be no special hurry. This is not a morbid. This to me is about life. Life is going to give you all that you can handle, no matter who you are, no matter what you've been born into, no matter what intellectual, athletic gifts, whatever it is, it does not matter. None of us are that special. And that's a really powerful thing to accept at some point of your life. Everybody in this room is going through something. Yeah, I read something recently. You're either entering a crisis, going through a crisis, or about to go into one. Like we're all battling something. But being able to accept from an ego perspective that we're not that important. In the scheme of things, we are a speck of sand. But what binds us? What binds us is the struggle. What binds us is the challenge. What binds us is locking arms and trying to go accomplish something of significance, something that matters. And when you do that, you got to know that it's going to be hard. It's going to be so damn hard. It's going to be painful. You're going to lose relationships. You're going to sacrifice your health. You're going to lose other hobbies, other passions, other joys. But that's the price of admission. And when I go back to my life, the things that I am most proud of, the things that fire me up, the things that I miss every single day were so hard and so miserable at the time. So hard and so miserable. But what made it amazing were the people to the left and right of you. It's your spouse starting a family. It's your coworkers building a business when you had no idea what you were doing and no money to get through the end of the week. It's being at war with Marines that love your country just as much as you do. It's going through 4 coaches in 4 years and the worst tenure in the history of Alabama football. Wouldn't trade it for a bit. I was talking to my daughter about college stuff the other day, and I'm like, man, Alabama's the last school that I thought I would go to college at. I had every goal and ambition of getting scholarships to go play football. And if it wasn't at Alabama, then worst case, it was going to be Naval Academy. But guess what? I didn't even get the 0-star ranking, So then what was my best option? Walking on in Alabama. Wouldn't trade it for anything. I got some of my friends here today. Love it. Means the entire world to me. I got my red jacket on. It is not pink, Steve Carey. This is crimson red, okay? So again, we never know the direction life's going to take us, but there's a reason for it. But this is what we're going to talk about a bunch today, I've got what I'm asking of you today. What am I looking for? And you see it in my welcome letter. It's that. It's more. I want more. More out of my life, but more of the things that matter. Not material possessions, not things that lack meaning, the real stuff. And the common connection between those 11 things I listed is depth. How do you go deeper by doing less, by doing the things that fill you up? And how do you get rid of the noise and the distractions? So what I'm searching for today from our speakers, from you in the audience, is that juice, that fire, that passion, reigniting my flame, reinvigorating me on the what's next, inspiring me to go search for that next thing that I want to pour into. And then I'm going to talk about what, you're going to get from me. And it's this. My number one goal today is that you walk out of here living in reality, having an honest conversation with yourself about whatever it is you want in your life that you say you want, to yourself, to others, whatever that may be, that you're actually willing to pay the price to go earn it. Because if you're not, that's fine. But don't insult me, don't insult others up here, don't insult your peers, don't insult your family by saying you want these things, knowing that you are not willing to go do what it takes. Because every person who's accomplished anything worth talking about has taken the punches. They have gotten their ass kicked time and time again and kept showing up. All right, is John here? Where's he at? All right. So my good friend John runs the Mobile Museum of Art, okay? John and I became fast friends about 6 months ago, and he was giving me a tour at his museum last week. And so Juan Logan has got an amazing series there right now. And I know nothing about art, believe it or not. And so we get to the end of this incredible tour, and there's this painting that's an outlier. And John says, originally this was the one I hated the most. This was my least favorite painting in the entire collection. I was like, why is it here? And I asked the artist, and the artist said, well, what do you see? So I started going into, the yellow and the red and the black or whatever. And he said, the artist immediately points out, well, did you see this black line? Did you see this black line? Did you notice this blue line? Because the blue line's what I wanted you to see. And so you start thinking about this painting and what it means, having John explain and then maybe put my own interpretation to it. If you view this as the world, okay? All it tries to do is distract you. Distract you with things that don't matter. Distract you with pettiness. Distract you with opinions. Distract you with things that they tell you they need or that you should be doing, or your neighbor has this, so that's what you should be striving for. It's all BS. It's just noise. So I look at this and it's like, okay, what's the yellow? Maybe the yellow's social media. Maybe it's opinions of people who've never met me before. What's the red? Maybe the red's naysayers. People are telling me I can't do something, I shouldn't do something. And then what scares me? The black. The black's what scares me. Because to me, that's mediocre. That's good enough. And in my mind, that's the worst thing that I can ever be. I can handle being a failure every day of the week. But status quo, playing it safe, that doesn't work for me. And just because that's my personality and my belief system doesn't mean it has to be yours. So I dig down a little bit deeper and I get to that blue line. And what does that mean? The blue line's it. It's what I'm looking for. It's what I haven't found yet. And I'm willing to bet everybody out there, no matter who you are, what stage of life you're in, you're looking for the same thing, that blue line. And guess what? It changes over time. You get to the top of the mountain, you got to find another mountain to climb, or life gets pretty empty pretty quick. So that's today. That's what we're all after today. Our blue line, whatever that may be. And that's what I'm challenging you. That's what I'm pushing you towards, to not only search for it for yourself, but help me find it. You can't build a good life on a distorted reality. You can build a story. You can build a performance. You can build something that looks impressive from the street, but you cannot build something meaningful, rich, and deep. All right? Today, we're going to embrace reality. Today, we're going to hit the truth head on. The questions that are going to be asked can only be answered by you. They can only be answered in here. And my goal today is to make sure every one of you, including myself, walk out of here with a commitment to be honest. As we search for that blue line, are we really doing our part to go realize the goal? Are we willing to pay the price to secure the blessing? And so I got a few slides. I'm going to be really, really fast. And a lot of what I'm going to close with all ties back to what everybody's talked about today. All right, so I put this up last year. Schwartzman. All right, if you have not read the book, What It Takes, please do. Write it down. What It Takes. It was the theme from last year. Everybody in our company reads it. If you're a deal junkie, if you're a culture person, you're a strategy person, you love a good story, it is absolutely world class, all right? Stephen Schwartzman, founder of Blackstone. Devote your time and energy to the things you enjoy. Excellence follows enthusiasm. And doing anything solely for prestige rarely leads to success. If you have a passion for pursuing your dreams, if you persevere, and if you are committed to helping others, you will have a full and consequential life and always have a chance at greatness. And the benefit of your enormous gifts will accrue to yourself, the people you love, and society at large. What did you hear today from everybody on stage? Passion. They love what they do. They believe in what they do. And at 44, what am I amazed by? Where do I see God at work? Where am I in awe? It is anything that somebody is doing with passion, with total obsession. My son's 12 years old right now. That boy can't sleep at night because he's thinking about fishing the next day. And I am not a fisherman. I mean, world-class awful. Can't stand it, other than it's something I get to do with my son. But that boy cares about that more than anything in the world. Not real worried about his math test, but he is really worried about who he's going to convince to go fishing with him in 35-degree weather the next day. You heard Brody up here. That is legit. I never saw Brody ace a test. Jared, I don't even know if Brody ever went to a class, but somehow he did really well at Alabama. I don't know if he could read or write. This is true. But you put Brody in front of a playbook, you have him break down a play, you have him run a huddle, all of that was legit. I was a 4.0 student. I could do math problems that took hours, but man, I was lost at football practice. I mean, granted, I was on scout team and they had crayons that told you who to block, so my job wasn't that hard. It was either hit Jared or hit Freddie in the middle, fun either way, right? But Brody was gifted, almost like a savant. Why? Because that's his gift. That's his David and Goliath. You know, he could sling a slingshot. Brody could throw a football. You know, Jarrett's the same way, man. You know, we've all got our thing. Everybody out there's got their thing. My wife's got her thing that I don't. I've got something that she doesn't. Every one of you have it. And that's why we're all stronger together. That's why we're gathered here today. You know, that's why we're meant to live in community. You know? Our quote for today: I had to find out how good I was. I'd never be happy if I didn't really find out what I was capable of. And I want to put this picture up here. You know, my wife opened her restaurant 3 years ago this next August, so 2.5 years ago. You know, her team, you know, Hunter's here too, you know, that was there with her from the start today. Some of her other workers, Anna, David, I think Sam's maybe here. But it has been more fun for me to watch her, to watch all of them figure this thing out, you know, to have no experience, to have her raise her hand and say, this is my dream, this is important to me. You know, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never run a business before. I've never been involved in a restaurant before, but I love the people that I've got in my corner, and we'll figure it out. And what has been the result? An amazing gift to our community, an amazing gift to our family, an amazing gift to her husband. But man, like, my business is a lot bigger than my wife's, but I am jealous of what she's got every day because I see the enthusiasm, I see the passion, I see the joy, and it takes me back to the beginning. It takes me back to the hard days when you really have no clue how you're going to get there tomorrow. And you're all in the office at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's COVID, and you're playing pickup basketball till you got blisters on your feet in the parking lot because you don't even know what else to do or who to spend your time with. Like, those are the best days. You want to see me light up? You know, let's talk about some hard shit. Let's talk about real life, you know? Let's talk about struggles. Let's talk about our failures, but how we keep showing up and keep showing up and keep showing up, because it's what it's all about. You know, it's not sitting at the Four Seasons on a beach in Mexico eating tacos. Who cares? You know, it's the moments to where you're the most miserable, beat down. How do I even pull myself up this time? And then your buddy shows up to get you out of jail with a milkshake. You know, that's a true story, you know. And you're not coming home tonight, but you can come stay at my house with my wife and the kids. Like, thanks, all right? Yeah, that's what life's all about. That's real. I hadn't figured it all out. But in over 4 decades of trying, you know, and spending the last 10 years working on myself, trying to deal with failures, trying to deal with trauma, trying to deal with my own shortcomings, trying to fill the holes in my heart. You know, and I've done all kinds of different things. Yeah, I've locked myself in a cave for 5 or 6 days in the darkness. Yeah, I've gone and spent time by myself in other countries, you know, trying to figure out what's wrong with me. You know, Jason pinpointed most of it, but, you know, like, what am I searching for? What do I need in my life? And all it comes back to for me is this: relationships plus experiences is living. You know, that is what fills me up. That is what gives me energy. That is what gets me excited. All the material stuff, you know, nice to have for a second. But you want to get something going, you want to get me talking, I'm going to tell you about something we've done together, something we've lived through. I'm going to tell you about somebody I got to meet. I'm going to tell you about somebody I got to sacrifice for and who sacrificed for me. You know, that's what matters. That is what makes you alive. John Wayne said it. That is one of the most difficult things about getting to compete and perform at the highest levels, about getting to go into combat, you know, about getting shot at, about getting to see your buddies killed in front of you, whatever that may be. Man, that is living. And when it's gone, it's really, really hard to replicate. You know, I had Admiral McCraven tell me one time in a small group when I asked him that question, I said, sir, now that you've taken off the uniform, you've gone back into private life, you know, I didn't serve in the capacity you did, but like, what's that thing that people that didn't serve will never understand? Or what's the thing that now that you're in civilian life, you know, you can't connect the dots back to the service? And he said, I got news for you, Marine. Obviously, you've been successful or you wouldn't be in this room. But first and foremost, we're not better than anybody else because we chose to serve. That's a choice we made, all right? Secondly, you will never be able to replicate what it meant to put your boots on, to wear that uniform. So I'm sorry. No matter what you accomplish, no matter how big your house is, no matter how big the plane is you want to get one day, you will never, ever get that sense of purpose, that camaraderie of what it meant to put on that damn uniform and line up with Marines and go to war. And I was like, I had a feeling you were going to say that, you know? And I've spent every day of my life trying to recreate that by the people that are in my corner, by the family that I have, by the things that I go after, you know, trying to chase that rush. And that's the hard part. The more you live, the more you do, the more people that amaze you, the harder it is to get the butterflies, you know? But it's worth it. Like, what else is there, you know? If you don't have relationships with people, with God, with things that matter, you know, what else are we here for? It's a sad story. We're born and we die, you know? With my wife up here, who's going to be next to you when you're in the hospital bed? You know, that matters. You know, one, because I've got a lot more surgeries ahead of me. You know, I'm aging pretty quickly. But, like, you got to have those people in your corner. I mean, I got 3 friends up there from kindergarten that were here today. You know, it's pretty special. You know, the guys that I work with, that I would cut my heart out with a butter knife without hesitation. You know, my family, my dad who's given me everything, my kids who I love to death, you know, who are my 68, my purpose, the experiences. Everything I'm proud of was miserable at the time. Go find those things that are hard. Go find those things that mean so damn much to you. It doesn't matter if you fail. Jason said it. Just go fail in the streets. You know, don't fail before you ever get out of bed. Just go do it. Man, like, I'm not even happy when I'm good at something. I'm fulfilled when I'm miserable and I'm struggling and I'm trying to figure out once I do it, it's not even interesting anymore. Maybe that's why I never catch greatness, because I'm so interested in misery. Yeah, is that it? Yeah, Jason told me I'm onto something here. All right, living. It's one of my top 3 favorite quotes. I use it every time. Phil Knight, The Meaning of Life. All right? Secret of happiness I'd always suspected, the essence of beauty or truth, or all we ever need to know of either, lay somewhere in that moment when the ball is in midair. When both boxers sense the approach of the bell, when the runner's near the finish line and the crowd rises as one, there's a kind of exuberant clarity in that pulsing half second before winning and losing are decided. And I wanted that, whatever that was, to be my daily life. You know, that moment where you don't know if it's going to go good or bad. I love it. I am addicted to it. That is what I try to fill my life with all the time. And sometimes that leads to really bad decisions, you know? So it's good to have people way smarter than you and way better than you in your corner. Keep your ass in check at times. But like that sums it up for me. That's what I'm searching for. You know, the do or die, the perform or fail, the look like a hero or look like a goat. My 68. Hopefully y'all all know the story of 68, you know, at this point. If not, spend some time going through our website. You know, John talked about it. Any of my military guys are going to talk about it. One of my best friends in the whole world, Eric Jones. Only child, died in Afghanistan. You know, can still remember Adam calling me the day he died. Exactly where I was. Said, Jones is dead. My 68 comes from everyone who sacrificed for me to be where I'm at today, and everyone who's counting on me going forward to carry out the plans God has on me. When I start feeling sorry for myself, when I start thinking I got dealt a bad hand, you know, I have a choice. Do I think about the 10,000 blessings I have or the 10 problems I'm dealing with? Yeah, there's an expression in recovery. Everybody puts their problems on the table. Guess what? You grab them back every time. You know, you want yours back. You don't want somebody else's. Everybody in this room's dealing with something. Their heart's hurting. They're worried. Everybody's got it. So find that thing that matters to you so much that you can endure anything. Eric's one of those reasons for me. No reason I should be alive today. Whether it's war, whether it's bad decisions growing up and after college even, you know, no reason I should be here unless God's got a plan for me. But Eric's parents, they don't have a son anymore. I got Marines I was responsible for who don't have a son anymore, those parents, but I'm still here. And there's no reason to explain it other than I got work left to do. You know, now the question is finding the right work. Closing in this, Mr. Stimson said it, good and faithful servant, well done. You know, my purpose statement, see all I can do with all I've been given. That's that Luke 12:48 reference, by always going for it, never settling and remaining true to who I am, while striving to be a creator and not a taker. On Judgment Day, my life will have been deemed a success because I will be able to say, I have nothing left. I used everything you gave me. And the reason I love that is that statement is not about talent. It's not about what you inherited. It's not about the opportunity that was given to you. It's just simply giving every damn thing you got. And wherever the chips fall, you can live with that. If you can have an honest conversation with yourself when you look in the mirror, when your head hits the pillow at night, that I gave everything I could. I put everybody else ahead of me. I told the truth today. You're going to be just fine. You can live with any result. You don't get the promotion, you don't get the award, you don't get the second home. Who cares? You can live with it, all right? Thank y'all for being here today. It has been an absolute gift to me. I love every single one of you and cannot be more grateful for having you in my life. Thank you to Kim, thank you to Kat, thank you to everybody who made this happen today. Again, totally blown away. Thank y'all.